Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2020-21 season. My name is Dan and today we're talking a wildcard draft. So Thursday is, I guess, kind of my free day, my day that I'll make sort of a random video. And I wasn't actually planning on making a wildcard draft video today, but a lot of you guys have asked me in the comments if I could do another wildcard video this week, because I think a few of you are playing the wildcard. I'm not personally, but doesn't mean I can't help you out, and maybe just by talking about some of the players that I'm going to be talking about today, it can sort of help people who aren't on wildcards as well, sort of if we sort of identify players that we might want into our teams long term. So yeah, let's look through that. Obviously I am trying to get 40,000 subscribers, so if you are new around here, please do consider subscribing, please do turn on that notification bell, and please do like the video if you enjoy what you see. So without further ado, let's have a little look at this wildcard draft that I've drafted up. So yeah, I think it's looking it's looking pretty good, but we're going to start you off at the back. It's a little bit different to the one I came out with last week. I think we've got a bit more information now, so hopefully this can be a little bit better. But we're going to start off in goal with Emi Martinez. I think out of the 4.5 million goalkeepers, he is the best option. He's got a couple of tough fixtures in the short term, but it does gradually get a little bit better. And sort of your goalkeeper, especially at 4.5, is not a player you'd want to be transferring around anyway, so you kind of have to accept the bad fixtures with the good fixtures with a goalkeeper and just stick with them. And for 4.5 million, I think Emi Martinez definitely offers the most value. Aston Villa, a much improved defensive side, which they've sort of proven not only, you know, so far this season, but also at the back end of last season. After the break, completely different, a brand new defensive team, and I've really been impressed by them. So Emi Martinez, looking at the team value and shouting at it, yeah, hopefully he'll be the best 4.5 pick. So I kind of wish I had him on my team, but you know, it wasn't to be at the start of the season. So in defence, I'm going to surprise you a little bit by going for Robertson over Trent Alexander-Arnold. So this is not going to be one of those teams which has got both of them in. I've gone for Robertson just because, you know, Robertson's 7 million. Trent Alexander-Arnold is 7.5 million. Robertson is also taking corners right now, so he's adding that to his game, which sort of, I guess, Alexander-Arnold had the one up on him for. And Robertson is probably playing equally in the same way as what we love about Trent Alexander-Arnold, sort of getting forward, you know, getting crosses in, creating goals and scoring goals as well. And Robertson so far has outscored Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, just through his attacking output, which has been really, really impressive, to be honest. And yeah, if it's a toss-up right now, if I'm on a wild card right now, I'd probably go to Robertson. If I already have Alexander-Arnold, I don't switch to Robertson. But, you know, you can start afresh on a wild card, save yourself 0.5 million, see where you can invest that elsewhere. And yeah, in this team, that 0.5 million went quite far. So that's for that reason I've gone for Robertson. And yeah, I'd be pretty confident. I wouldn't be worried about having Robertson over Alexander-Arnold at all, really, at this very, very moment anyway. Next up in defence, I've gone for Seamus Coleman, and I'm sort of seeing this as a cheaper way of getting Digne into your team, because Digne is a little bit more expensive. Coleman, a lot of people are sleeping on, but Coleman, because he is sort of nailed on at right back, Everton have got some pretty good fixtures sort of in the medium term for their defence, so they're going to keep a few clean sheets, I think. And Coleman, sort of, he's offering a little bit of attacking output as well. Not quite in the same way as Luca Dean can offer it, but Coleman is still pretty good in that regard. 5 million is a really good way into the Everton defence as well. Obviously, Everton looking a far better team and than we perhaps expected them to be this season, and a far better team than they were last year, especially and defensively as well. So I like Coleman the most as a way into the Everton defence. I don't think there's any other player in the Everton defensive line / goalkeeper that I'd rather have than Coleman right now, just based on price, you know, keeping it cheap. And yeah, so Coleman is my pick there. A little bit of a differential as well, so quite interesting. And then I've got Kyle Walker-Peters as the final defender that I would be using in this game week, that you'll see in a few minutes, the bench that I've got laid out. But Kyle Walker-Peters is the player I would be playing as my third defender in this team. So he's got West Brom first, which is quite nice. He's got some other nice fixtures, sort of Aston Villa a little bit later down the line. He has got Chelsea and Everton in between that, but we can rotate him out for the other defender that's on my bench, which we will come to. Another sort of 4.5 million defender on my bench. But the idea here is to keep the defence fairly cheap. In fact, really cheap. So compared to my team, compared to my wildcard draft team from last week, this defence is a lot cheaper. And the reason for that is because there doesn't seem to be that much consistency or value in defence right now, because we're getting some real random scores. It's been a little bit all over the place. There's been far more penalties, and therefore we can't be relying on clean sheets in the way in which we might have done in previous seasons, where we'd look to players who's going to get the clean sheets. Don't think that's so guaranteed anymore. So we're looking for attacking fullbacks as a defenders who are likely to get assists, a la Kyle Walker-Peters, perhaps potentially Coleman, Robertson as well. And we're sort of taking a little bit of emphasis off the clean sheets, I think, and sort of taking money out of the defence as well, because there are far more points to be gained elsewhere. Don't think, as now we've started the season, perhaps before the season I would have thought, okay, we might have quite a lot of points in defence this year. But as it transpires, actually, there's not actually that many points in defence or in goal, to be honest. So it's best to invest that money elsewhere. So that's what we're going to do in this team, and you'll soon see that the rest of the team, there is no cheap guys in the whole rest of the team. The rest of the team is looking very, very nice, and it's not bad considering the 100 million point four budget. Obviously you can take it down a little bit. We'll talk about that in a second. So in midfield we've got Mo Salah, 12.1 million, 39% owned now. So he's kind of a guy I think is really essential. He's a captaincy option pretty much every game week, every other game week. There's constant opportunities to be captaining him. If you look at these fixtures here, Aston Villa, Everton, Sheffield United, West Ham, if you wanted to captain him in any one of those matches, you would say that is a good shout, really, wouldn't you? He's just so greedy. He's shooting so much. He's greedy kind of to a fault in real life football, where you might hope that he pass. But for FPL, we kind of want greedy players. We want hungry players that all they want to do is score goals. So that's exactly what we want in an FPL asset. So that's why you're going for a player like Salah. And he's going to be a really, really good option for all of our fantasy teams, to be honest. And he's proven for several seasons now that he's fantasy gold, so that's why we've got to have him in our team. Next up, De Bruyne at 11.6. He's gone up a little bit more. He's gone up a little bit anyway. Again, the kind of player where pretty much every game week you could potentially captain him. You do need to have a couple of players in your team that you could potentially captain. I would probably say a minimum of 3 premium players, or at least almost premium players, that you can consider putting your captain's armband on at all times and just sort of switch it between the 3 players. It's just really, really useful, so you don't have to make transfers on bringing in potential captains, and you've always got your captain's armband covered, because it is kind of the most important decision of your game week, so make sure you've got someone good. De Bruyne, one of those guys. He looked really good in the first game this season that he played in Game Week 2. Game Week 3, he still looked pretty good, but he sort of didn't have the right players around him to do the business. Obviously, Man City have a few problems, but they've got Leeds United next. That's going to be a really, really good fixture for De Bruyne. There's some other fixtures in there that I like the look of. De Bruyne's got an incredible record against Arsenal. West Ham, you don't really know what West Ham are going to show up. Sheffield United aren't looking so great at the moment, so potentially there's high scores in there. But De Bruyne is sort of playing in this advanced position. He's playing as an attacking midfielder now, and for that reason, he's hopefully going to get a lot more FPL points, a lot more goals, a lot more assists, and be far more involved in the Man City attacks than he was before. So I really like the look of De Bruyne, more so than I would have thought I would like him at the beginning of the season, now that I know the kind of role that he's going to be playing in this Man City team. So let's move on anyway to Zaha. Probably won't surprise you, I talked about how I wanted to bring in Zaha into my team. Although I'm not sure I've personally got an easy route to get Zaha into my team. If you're on a wild card, you have got an easy route to get Zaha into your team, because you can just do whatever transfers you like, can't you? So Zaha is a player that I would probably want to be looking at, definitely. Even his game against Chelsea, which he's got straight away now, Chelsea are looking kind of weak in defence, aren't they? So there might be goals potentially for Zaha. Zaha as well, potentially on penalties as well. I know Ayew took the first penalty, missed it unfortunately. Zaha took the second penalty that Crystal Palace have had, and he scored it. So does Zaha have the penalties now? But whatever the case, he is the main man. His stats are looking good. He's looking like a really good player. He's got some incredible fixtures coming up. The first of his incredible fixtures is sort of Brighton, Fulham, but he does play pretty much all of the other weaker teams in the league, if you like, over the course of the next sort of 10-15 game weeks. So looking really, really good for Zaha. So he's a kind of player you can stick in your team for a long time, and he's going to be the main man at Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are looking much improved, and Zaha seems the best player to bring in. People would say, oh, can we cut corners, maybe go for Townsend? I probably would not go for Townsend. I don't think his scores are as sustainable as Zaha's are. Zaha also playing out of position. He's playing essentially as a second striker, or maybe even a main striker, in a striking partnership, 2 up front, even though he's listed as a midfielder in FPL. So that's the kind of something we like as well. So lots of positives about Zaha, but we will move on to Harvey Barnes. Now, a lot of people have asked me, what Leicester player should you go for? Because a lot of people want to go in on Leicester at the moment, and I kind of understand why. Most people would probably say go for Vardy. A lot of people would say, I'll perhaps go for Maddison. But Harvey Barnes is the tip. He's the tip. He's the guy you want to be going for, purely because he is shooting so much. He's taking so many shots, and these are the kind of stats we like in FPL. If a player is shooting a lot, that means that goals are naturally going to come their way. Barnes, sort of last season, he really did score a few goals. He got a few assists in sort of spurts when he was playing. He looked really good. So when he sort of nailed down his position for like periods of the season, he looked really good. But now he looks even more nailed in the Leicester team than ever before. So he's looking really good. He's taking a lot of shots. He's clearly brimming with confidence. If you want a player who takes shots, you don't want someone like Jamie Vardy, who's only taken sort of a few shots outside of penalties. So he's really reliant on penalties. But Harvey Barnes, he's getting on the ball loads, he's shooting loads, getting loads of goal scoring opportunities in the current Leicester tactics. So let's get on him. Whilst he's fairly low owned, 5.6% ownership, that's pretty low, you would say. So let's get ahead of the curve a little bit. Let's go for Harvey Barnes before he completely lights up the Premier League. And arguably he has done so, because he's getting genuinely a lot of points right now. So yeah, definitely a player that I'd be looking towards if I was on a wild card, which unfortunately I'm not, but you could be. So let's move on to our forwards now. And you're going to like this, I think. This is the ideal strike partnership. So we're starting off with Jimenez. 8.6 million now. Look at those fixtures, is what I would say. Fulham at home, Leeds away, Newcastle at home, then Crystal Palace at home. That is just an insane amount of fixtures. It's so good for Jimenez to get some goals there. Jimenez is not the kind of player who would get you sort of a hat-trick. I don't think he's ever scored a hat-trick in the Premier League. But he can definitely sort of get you 1 or 2 goals very consistently. So it's nice to have him in your team, just ticking along, getting those nice sort of 8 points, 9 points potentially every single game. Just adding to your total score. So that's why I really like Jimenez. And across this period of fixtures, you would say he probably gets, 28, 30 points, something like that during those fixtures, which would be a really nice addition to your score. So, not the most exciting player to own, but has always got a goal in him, and especially in these games, sort of Leeds sort of leaky in defence, even though they're good going forward. Fulham, very leaky in defence. Newcastle, statistically looking really leaky in defence. Crystal Palace are a little bit improved, but I don't think they're untouchable by any stretch of the imagination. So, really good fixtures for Jimenez. Jimenez, a really consistent player. He is on penalties as well. Lots of positives to be taken there. And another player I talked about in my transfers video, buy, sell, keep, avoid. If you want to go check that video out, if you haven't done already, please do go check that out. But that's why I like Jimenez. So next up, we got another expensive guy in Danny Ings, 8.4 million. So he's actually dropped 0.1 in price since the beginning of the season. But that price drop came pretty early, and I think his price might start to rise a little bit now. He's got West Brom next, which is just an insane fixture, as we know. Other fixtures after that looking pretty good as well. Not too bad. But we expect a big score against West Brom, and hopefully that will make it worth bringing in Ings in the first place, because he is kind of capable of getting a slightly bigger haul. He's always on for a hat-trick. Again, we're talking penalties. Although Southampton have been a little bit inconsistent, Danny Ings is someone that you can always trust, really. I sort of thought he might be a little bit too much money at the start of the season, maybe just slightly. But, when you're about to play against West Brom, who's defensively they're sort of breaking records, statistical records anyway, of how bad their defence is. So is a really good opportunity for the main goal scorer of Southampton, which Danny Ings very much is. So he's looking really good there. After that, his fixtures aren't too bad. You reckon he can score against Chelsea probably. You reckon he can score against Everton, Aston Villa. He can score in these games. So you could keep him long term, or you could think about shifting him out if there's someone else you've got your eye on in forwards. But forwards seem to be super important. Danny Ings is the next guy there. And then finally, how could I not include Dominic Calvert-Lewin? He's sort of just the player, if you're on your wild card, he's the player you have to get into your team, isn't he, really? It's sort of the first name on your wild card draft team, isn't it? Just because he's scoring so highly. He's already gone up 0.4 million in value. He's already up to 37% ownership. I think he was on something like, around 6% owned on day one of the season, and he's now in just 4 game weeks, or we're not even at the 4th game week yet, in 3 game weeks, he's at 37% ownership. So everyone is bringing Dominic Calvert-Lewin in because he's scoring so many goals. He scored a load of more goals in the Carabao Cup. He can't stop scoring. He's in excellent form, and it's all because of this midfield that's been placed behind him. Just this incredible new midfield for Everton that are doing so well. So I think you've got to kind of got to have Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And although you see that horrible Liverpool fixture in that little list there that you're looking at there, in this sort of derby games, Liverpool versus Everton, the Merseyside derby, there is still always goals, and you would expect Dominic Calvert-Lewin to perhaps score in that, and that would be really good for him, wouldn't it? That's the first team. Quick note on the forwards is that I put a lot of money in forwards. That's kind of because there seems to be that all of the points, if you look at the top point scorers so far this Fantasy Premier League season, it's all about the forwards. It really is all about the forwards. They're scoring so many goals, they sort of taking so many penalties, even getting a couple of assists here and there. So looking really, really good in the forwards line. But braces to come, hat-tricks to come. Invest in the forward line is sort of my thinking right now, and that's exactly what I've tried to do in this wildcard team. Invest a lot of money in the forward line, sort of not spend so much in defence, and sort of try and balance a couple of premium midfielders, because you always got to have a couple of premium midfielders, with some other good midfield options. But sort of taking out, a lot of people are going for a 3 premium in midfield, but I've sort of taken out the 3 premium in midfield to try and invest in the forwards a little bit more there. So that's what we've done. Quick look at the bench as well. 4-star, 4 million. I won't talk about him too much. He's just a 4 million goalkeeper, but you would have thought if any keeper is going to drop out of the first team right now, it's perhaps McCarthy. Forster is a very good keeper in reserve, so he could potentially come in, maybe you'd say. Lamptey at 4.6 million. I mean, he's probably going to be playing most weeks in this team just because he plays so far forward. He's so quick. He's so eager to get assists, sort of thing, and play good balls in, try and create for the forward players. That he's a really, really, really nice option there. So, definitely would throw him in as your sort of rotating fourth defender who you probably play most weeks, like I said, to be honest. Burke seems to be playing fairly regularly for Sheffield United now, which is really good stuff. If he can become the main striker, even if Sheffield United only get 1 goal every 5 games, that's still okay to have on your bench as in reserve, just in case things go terribly, terribly wrong in your first team. And then Ferguson, he's still not fit, but perhaps after the international break he might start getting some game time. And I think out of all of the 4 million defenders, I still think he is the most likely to nail down a starting 11 slot long term. So as long as you don't need to play your 5th defender right this second, as long as you don't mind just leaving him on the bench just for now, then I still think Ferguson is the best option in defence there for your 4 million defender. So there you go. Yes, the team value is 100 million.4. I would hope that a lot of people would have sort of gained at least some of this value. Sort of, if you've had Salah since the beginning, if you've had De Bruyne since the beginning, then you would have already gained 0.1 on each of those. If you've perhaps had Dominic Calvert-Lewin for even 1 game week, you would have gained a little bit of value there. If you've got Jimenez already, you might gain a bit of value there. So there's different ways in which you could have already got up to 100 million. But if, of course, you're not quite there, you're not quite at 100 million value, or 100.4 million value, you want to take a little bit of money out. The obvious way is to downgrade Coleman to another 4.5 million defender. Perhaps you go for someone like Luke Ayling, Stuart Dallas, someone like that. I would take the money out of defence, if I'm completely honest. The other way to do it is to maybe, downgrade one of your forwards to a 6.5 million forward. You sort of got like Chris Wood is a pretty good option, he looks like. Maybe you want to go for the new Aston Villa striker Watkins, something like that. You could potentially downgrade one of your midfielders. So you might want to take Barnes down to Phil Foden, for example. That will save you 0.5 million as well. So there's loads of options where you could just take down one player. Say you're looking at this team and you're thinking, I'm not sure about Harvey Barnes, take him down to Foden. If you're thinking, not sure about Coleman, take him down to Luke Ayling. So there are options. And just sort of take 0.55 out of one of the players you're not confident about. But I would definitely be keeping Jimenez, Zaha. I'd be probably keeping Salah and De Bruyne. I'd be keeping Robertson. And I'd be making sure you have at least 1 good defender and at least 3 4.5 million or more defenders. So don't try and downgrade one of your 4.5 defenders down to another 4 million defender, because you don't want 2 4 million defenders because you'll end up having to play them and they just won't get you points, and there's not really much out there at the moment in terms of 4 million defenders, at least not long term, and this is your wild card. It needs to be a little bit long term. So that is it. I can't believe I went on for 20 minutes about this wildcard team. I was so desperate in my head to go on for less time, but I wanted to give you a full explanation of the whole thing behind this team, and I wanted this video also to be useful to people who are not on wildcards and still can take something of value out of this video, which hopefully you have, but you can tell me all about that. But yeah, hopefully you did like this video. If you did, please leave it a big thumbs up. If you're new around here, please do consider subscribing. What else can I say? Captain's video tomorrow if you want to know all about what captain I would perhaps pick for this game week, even though not had a great record so far, but you know, I'm only going off statistics, so that's all I can really advise you on. So yeah, do check that out when that comes out tomorrow. In the description you can join my mini league, you can support me on Patreon, you can see my Twitter account, you can see my Instagram account. I'm posting loads on Twitter at the moment, so you might want to check that out. And the final thing I want to say is that I know we've got an international break coming up, but I've still got loads of content coming up across the international break. I've got so much planned. There's going to be loads of videos. If you've got an FPL itch to scratch whilst the Premier League is not on, don't worry, I'm here. I'll scratch that little itch for you. Don't worry about that. But yeah, that's all I've got to say today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy the video, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.